What's up? Today we have Kris Rudeegraap on, who is the CEO and founder of Sendoso, fellow AI for go-to-market nerd like myself. And he breaks down in this episode the exact tactical step-by-step process in terms of how he cut his SDR team in half while increasing results at the same time, specifically with AI. So I've never seen a CEO go this amount of in-depth in terms of tactical execution steps. So this is a writer downer. You're going to want to check this out and you can actuate this immediately. So great episode. It was a lot of fun. See you in there. Welcome everybody to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest back with me today. I think it was almost like 300 episodes later, Kris Rudeegraap, who's a co-founder and CEO of Sendoso, which is a direct mail and gifting platform. Kris has done some amazing things there. We're going to talk about in the episode, but some things that Kris is especially passionate about are growth hacking, experimental marketing, AI, and go-to-market, which is my love language. Kris, welcome. Happy to have you back, man. Welcome to be back on the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, glad to be back. It's been a minute, or years, I should say, but good to chat again.
Yeah, good to see you. Always smiling as normal. So do you want to give I don't know, man, just because I want to spend a lot of time talking about deep things that we discussed in the pre-show. So before we get too deep though, do you want to give 2 to 3 sentence background on you, what's going on in the company right now, kind of what you're doing?
So before I started Sendoso 8 years ago, I spent about a decade in software sales myself. So I really saw firsthand the evolution of what I call outbounding. When I first got started in sales, it would be cool if you could, do a mail merge and you'd get, send 100 emails and get 99 replies. And, that was diminishing pretty quickly about 8 years ago. And so I saw an opportunity to leverage the channel of direct mail and gifting as a means to break into account, grab attention, and build better relationships with prospects. And so super manual process that with software and warehousing and global marketplaces was able to turn into a very turnkey automated platform. I have since scaled up in the last 8 years, raised 150 million in funding. Have seen almost 300 million spent on our platform, millions of gifts, hundreds of thousands of senders. And since I've been on the show the last few years, we've made some big improvements on our AI. I think everyone has, but it's been really interesting for us. Made an acquisition and have just continued to try to dominate the market with thought leadership and continue to evangelize the category.
That's awesome, man. Well, congrats on your success since we last spoke.
Thank you.
So that's amazing. And let's get into it today. So, this is part 1 of 2 parts. So today we are going to cover, and I'll tell you, you're going to have to listen to the end of the episode to hear where we're going for episode 2, because you're not going to want to miss that one as well. But what we're going to do is, one of the things Kris identified to me is hey, I figured out a way how to cut your SDR team in half by implementing AI outbound with Clay, and then also mixing in some gifting in there as well. So that caught my attention. I'm like, that's a sweet spot. So walk us through that process, how it kind of came about, and then we'll take it from there, man.
Yeah. So to give you a little history, for, the first 6 years of our growth and from 2016 to about 2021, we ran that similar predictable revenue type of playbook, which was every quarter you just got to hire a boatload more of SDRs because you need more SDRs to book more meetings. A bunch of them are going to churn out because they're just bad fits. And it's really a headcount game and a spreadsheet math game in terms of how are you growing your pipeline. Going into 2022 and 2023, our board said, hey, we need to focus more on profitable, efficient growth. And so we had to rethink about that strategy and rethink of our CAC and rethink of ultimately what we were going to do differently. And so we looked into the market and what tools could make us way more effective and efficient, and how can we do twice as much with half as many SDRs. And we stumbled upon Clay early on. Clay.com, for those of you that don't know, is a data enrichment, data orchestration platform that plugs into your tech stack. And so what we realized is we meticulously spent hours and hours and hours tracking every minute of an SDR's day. And we looked at, okay, where are they spending 4 minutes copying, pasting data from this data tool into CRM? They spent 6 minutes going to someone's LinkedIn to see what their last job was, to reference that in the email. They spent 8 minutes adding somebody into a sequence. They spent 3 minutes. And so we looked at all those tasks and said, okay, let's automate all those. And it's exactly what we did through Clay. And so we shifted how we thought about sales development and moved most all of it into Clay from a outbound perspective, and then shifted to focus the SDR's time on high value, prioritized, high intent based accounts that were doing more value add of phone calling, Sendosoing, and used AI to write more of the messaging, as well as some cool things with like out of office replies and sequencing.
Okay. So I love the mechanics of that. Like a couple follow-up questions to that. So
Sure.
what was the process that you use organizationally to track every single minute based on the tasks that they were spending time on?
Yeah, so we had this Tiger team that was going to go in. It was part growth marketing, part SDR leadership, and an SDR that went in and really just focused like their time on tracking that all. And there was a team effort. There was also some excitement with the SDRs as well. That was, hey, we're going to be implementing some new tools that will change the way that your days spent from a lot of manual time and tasks to more interesting, more humanized, focused initiatives. So yeah, it was a couple of weeks of kind of auditing, and then we went into like implementation mode. And a couple of things we learned pretty quickly from that is there was lots of copying and pasting that didn't need to happen. There was even things like, an out of office message that would come back from a rep that they would then go and copy and paste that date and try to set a task to follow up manually and to take them out of the sequence. That was automated. We completely automated out of office. There was no need to spend 8 minutes on that. So even the small things made a big difference. And then now we then said, hey, well, how do we prioritize the SDR's time now if they had unlimited time? And so we implemented these like intent scoring and other intent data to say, okay, now that you have time, here's the most important contact and account that you should send a Sendoso to, jump on a phone call, have some social media interaction with, which were still not fully automatable.
Okay, so I love that. How did you? Because I think that's great, man. You like your team did the dirty work or the shit job, right? To get to to make the job actually better for everyone. So
yeah,
I think that's brilliant. Most people not take that 2 weeks to save the 2 years of work, right?
Exactly.
Is effectively what you did. So I think it's smart that you prioritize that as a leader and did that. So props to you on that, man, because I still see companies walking right by that. And then like, if you look at, I guess like, okay, so how did you do the out of office thing? Because that sounds pretty cool. I haven't heard that as well. Where that's automated.
So that was just something we were able to craft through Clay, where it was ingesting in the emails. And then when there was an out of office, we took that context, threw it into like a ChatGPT type of prompt, pulled out the critical information of the date, and then used that, push that back into CRM, and then set up another sequence when that date occurred again. And all those things happened without the SDR having to even spend a second on it. Wow. The other interesting thing we came across too was with personalization, a lot of times reps were doing more like insert variable personalization. Hey, I saw you went to this university. I saw you were this title. And I think that had a time and place, but was more obvious to spot out from a buyer or someone on the receiving end of that, the recipient. But with using AI for crafting our messaging, we're able to give it more of a prompt saying, give me one sentence about how Sendoso, which does XYZ really well, could solve a problem for somebody who's this title at this company in this industry who has this need. And then it would give us just like a sentence that was awesome. And the sentence is a lot better than just inserting a variable. And so all these emails all looked very different, which also helped with deliverability. Because if you send a bunch of emails out with the same exact template, the deliverability issues can arise from the Googles and Outlooks of the world who are trying to stop that. But as you dynamically generate these emails, there's a lot of other improvements to deliverability too.
Yeah. So then did you string that together with like a Zapier or Make or
all through Clay? So Clay has this all built in where it's pulling in data from all these different data sources, including doing, if-thens from Salesforce, and then calling the OpenAI API, prompting it, saying, do this, do that, do this, do that, and then basically filling that into another cell in the kind of this Clay spreadsheet. And then that then connects into our sequencing tool to then build the email and send the email. Wow. And then sending across multiple different sending domains. So the SDR might have, 5 to 10 different sending domains. So they're actually doing a bunch of sending from warmed up accounts. And then once the reply happens, now the SDR just is basically sitting on an inbox with a bunch of replies, not doing any of the sending part. And then furthermore, they have a report that that they can go look at in Salesforce to say, this person has like is the highest, most intent person. They went to the website, they clicked on an email, they visit us as a booth, your typical like marketing lead scoring stuff, but we took it like 10 times further and use that for SDRs to prioritize, versus historically, a lot of SDRs were more step-based. Hey, I got the 7th step on this sequence for this account, regardless of any interaction, is just to call them. But maybe they didn't open up any of the first 6 emails, or they didn't reply to any of so then you're still kind of cold. We're saying skip the steps, just reprioritize your time to people actually engaging and showing intent.
And did you use any third-party intent tools at all as well?
Yeah, we're pulling in intent from 6sense. There's some intent coming in from a few other partners of ours, a few other companies, including Clay has some intent data. I think using our B2B to see web visitor intent. I think we're pulling in some intent from Mad Kudu. We invested a lot in intent, and
what was the last one you said?
What's that?
What was the last one you said? Mad Kudu?
Mad Kudu.
I don't think I've ever heard of it.
So we are, willing to overinvest in intent, because I think that's the, an unfair advantage for us when we know that we can prioritize our time to focus on somebody who's, taking some action on our website, on content syndication, in these intent networks, what Bombora data, 6sense data, et cetera. Even, trying to pipe in intent scores from visiting our booth, all these other areas.
Okay. That makes sense, man. And then what about like on the gifting side? Like how did you leverage that on top of it?
Yeah. So what we're doing with the gifting is kind of a combination of, when people are showing high intent, we're segmenting and sending out gifts to convert them better. So that's useful. We also are doing these door opener mailers out. And for people that are clicking and engaging with the gift, saying thank you for the gift, that throws into their intent score and then drives us to follow up again. So the gifts are driving, demo requests, driving intent data on engagement, and then is used as another means to break into these accounts as well.
So cool. I love the you could tell that you've done this before. Like that was like your former life, because like the level of detail you're going through is insane. So I absolutely love that, man.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with this. I think there's a big change of go to market right now with AI, with prompts, with how outbound is shifting. And so you need to, get on the fast moving train and learn, or you're going to get passed by. And so I love learning about it. I love getting in the weeds.
Couldn't agree with you more, man. So what were the results of all that? That's one thing I didn't ask you yet.
Yeah. So, we are delivering more pipeline than we ever have with, a team size that's more than half of what we had before. So we did not have to give up any results by reducing the team to save on headcount costs. So that's the biggest thing. The second thing is we've shifted how we think about future quarter growth, which was previously, again, 3-5 years ago, predicated on this headcount model, where the only possible way to grow was putting more heads into our engine. And now we can just run more plays through Clay that then spit out more meetings for us. There is still a headcount component, but it's not as like 1-to-1 as it was before. So now we can unlock more revenue at an exponential rate than we could have before. And so we're seeing, tens of millions in pipeline being generated through this method.
And how many before and after like SDRs or BDRs did you have? Like you said half, like what was the number?
Yeah, it went from a couple dozen down to like about 10. So that was a big shift for us in how we thought about it.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think I love that. So two things I'm going to ask you right now is one, where do you see the future of go-to-market going, specifically as it relates to pipeline creation?
I think that what I just explained will be more of the normal than the, oh, wow, I have never heard that, or, oh, wow, that's interesting. So I think that is just really, how do you, and that applies, I think, for a lot of go-to-market, whether that's running ads, whether that's thinking about gifting, whether that's thinking about your your other field marketing initiatives. It's how are you rethinking what the playbook was from 5 to 10 years ago? How are you infusing the powers of AI into that? And then how are you taking those results and replicating them? So I think that is going to be a recipe that is hard for people to chew on because it's almost like one step sideways or one step backwards to get 10 steps forward.
Yeah.
But and for some organizations that are very short term focused, like if I miss this month's number, this quarter's number, I think that's where coming from the top, coming from the CEO, coming from other executives that are saying, hey, we need to rethink this motion is going to be critical. And so I think people are rethinking their playbooks. And I think we're benefiting from that in Sendoso, where they're saying, hey, I can't just do this email only playbook. I need to bring in Sendoso and gifting into the mix as another channel that's untapped.
Yeah. I think I see that all the time. Like with folks I work with, they're like, they won't spend an hour to learn something like specifically on how to use a different AI component where it'll save them 10 hours a week.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, you want to invest 2 hours to get back 10 hours, not just this week, but for the rest of the year. And like, there's a lot of folks that just don't do that. They're just like, I'm so busy, I can't do that.
And I think it's partially on the individual and partially on the organization. So our head of people, came to me and came to our exec team with the initiative to say, hey, we want to reskill our team and make sure everyone's up to date on all things AI. So we had, some AI training. You can opt in to getting kind of the general tool ChatGPT and learning how to prompt, being better at prompting. And then we crowdsourced our team on an all hands to say, hey, come to us with interesting department level AI tools that would make you and your department and your specific role better and interesting. And that crowdsourcing led to a lot of excitement where different folks on the team said, hey, I found this really cool tool. It can do X, Y, Z. And we said, great, let's get that for your team. So I think there's general purpose tools like what everyone knows with ChatGPT. And then there's very specific department level tools for engineering, for support, for account managers, for sales that you can work within your workflows and are beneficial there too. So I think it's partially on the organization to come up with a strategy to up-level the workforce.
Yeah, I think it's dead on. It's got to be at the individual. And then from a leadership perspective, you got to give them space like you did, right? Where they could feel empowered and share and give their ideas. And like some of the best innovations I've seen from companies have been from individuals of like things that nobody would have suspected. Yeah. So it's awesome, man. Well, we're up on time. We are going to do a part 2 coming up. And Kris and I are going to get deeper on some of the AI components that we just left off on. So, but where can people find you? Where can they find out more about Sendoso? And then we'll wrap, man.
Yeah. Find me on LinkedIn, follow me, add me. I love meeting people. So send me an email, Kris, Kris @sendoso.com. And if this was intriguing to you, feel free to check out our website, sendoso.com. And there's a ton more there as well on some of the cool things we're doing with gifting.
Love that. All right. Well, thanks for being on, Kris. This was a blast as always. And it was great seeing you again, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Ryan.